The tools necessary to generate your plant schedule are all gathered in the first item on the drop-down gCADPlus menu. So here you can attach GCP files, your plant database files, edit them, set data to plant and so on. You can view the plant list if necessary. And I want to focus here on drawing the schedule. So plant schedule, draw the standard schedule, and you're asked for the height of text that will be incorporated into the schedule. And I'll hit the enter key and accept the default. I previously used a text height of 100, so I'll accept 100 and I'll put in and draw the schedule pretty much over the same area as the one on the left. And if we dive in fact if I dive in here first, the height of that text is 150 and units, and if we look in this text here, I'd have to select the plant schedule and edit the block. Looking here, and the text height is 100. So in this case, I'll close the block editor. So in this case, a height of 150 works a little better. However, if you set a different text style, so format text style, and I'll pick Architect D and OK it, then I can update the schedule, plant schedule, update the schedule, and you can see here that because the two fonts occupy a different space, this one over here was 150, and if we look in here with a different font being used, and I'll edit that block and go in here, it should be 100. So the character height is 100. So I'll close the block editor. So it's quite important to pay attention to the text style that you have in operation when you're about to draw a plant schedule. I think it's a good idea to draw the plant schedule some distance away from the design itself, and the reason for that, and let's in fact shift it, it's a block, so I'll select that block and move it some distance away, and we'll eliminate this one. So if we now make a new layout, format, layout, layout, a new one, layout 2, and we'll just move to layout 2, and I'll double click here, and without being too fussy about things, I'll just make a floating viewport large enough to hold the complete design, display that on the layout, double click, probably take the grid off, I don't need it to snap. So there's the layout sitting there. I can position things by moving, so I can move that up maybe to that position there. I'll unselect all, and what I'll now do is right click over layout 2 and add a viewport. So I'll put a viewport and I'll cross over this one like so. Now I can double click in there and set up another floating viewport which sits over the plant schedule. Let's display that on the layout, double click again, and so our layout is sitting now on the sheet, on the presentation sheet. It can be very handy to edit the plant schedule to improve the layout. So I'll select it now and edit the block. You can do all sorts of things inside the plant schedule itself. One could change the style from Architect D back to standard. We know we're going to need a somewhat larger height. Let's push it to 150, and I'll click away. Can you see now there's our standard height, but we've got our header row in a different font, and now you can use modify and match properties. Pick the entity to match, which is that one there, and now we were able to put a selection window, so we could go from here to there, and we're matching all the properties there. So now we have one font height at the top, a row that matches it in terms of font, and we've swung back to using the standard font in the list. And you can play however you like. You might want to make these total numbers higher or in bold or whatever, so you can experiment and modify things in that plant schedule and then it's just a matter of closing the block letter. They're all updated, and if we go back into a layout and create a new viewport as we did before, I'll leave it overlap for the moment, then double click down here and put it around, and then display on the layout. Double click again. So there's our plant schedule. It becomes, of course, very easy now because it's contained in its own floating viewport to move it wherever you see fit. I tend to leave it overhanging a little bit like that so that I can select that viewport earlier. If we change both of these to colour 255, which is our advice, and unselect all, you can see it can be a little difficult to, I'll get rid of the grid, it can be a little difficult to pick this floating viewport. It's easy to get that one there, not quite so easy to get this one. You can see sometimes it's easier just to do that. Oh, it was a crossing box that should have got both. Now it's got both. Hold your shift key down and pick that one. That gives us the floating viewport that matches the plant schedule. So there's a little bit of fiddling and experimentation to do in that environment. But I hope that gives you a good idea of how to make a plant schedule. You know, I think how to update it and how to edit it to get the result that you want. Generating a plant schedule in a design such as this is not without its difficulty. For starters, line weight's been left at 1.2 millimetres, so whatever we draw will have that thickness. I'd much prefer that to be set back to by layer. And down here, the labels for the plants to see are here, but they're dark on a dark background. So we'll change from background colour black to background colour white, and now we can see them. But that text is Chinese star jasmine. Again, its line weight is far too heavy. We want to generate a plant schedule here. We'll put it close to this area and see what happens. So it's gCADPlus. Let's just first make sure that all the symbols are already named, and they appear to be. So we now should be able to draw the standard schedule. And we're asked for a text height. If, as some beginners do, you just go click, click to indicate a height, you might get the wrong answer. You may get a horrible looking schedule. Let's illustrate. We'll go click, click. I've just indicated arbitrarily, and then I'll click first corner and second corner. And gCADPlus is trying to draw. And you see what happens here, you get a real mix of overlapping text and whatever. It's much better to be in control and type a number at that point. So let's do it again. Draw the standard schedule. Yes, by clicking, I nominated a height of 137.5. We could get in there and edit it, but it's much better to type a value of 100. And so we can nominate our schedule now. It gets drawn, and this time the text is absolutely tiny. Now that puzzles me a little, so let's try it again. Was I not concentrating? Plant schedule. I typed 10. 100 is the number, and let's do it again. We can draw over the exact same area, like so. And there's our schedule done. Now if I put my background back to black, and you see it again, I'm having a great deal of trouble seeing this schedule. So if I want to see it, much better to select it, edit the block. I'm going to pick everything inside the block now and make sure that it's being drawn colour 149 on a dark background. So I'm going to bring that back to by layer and close the block editor. So to sum up, when you are drawing plant schedule, you have to make sure that all the plants are tagged, and that as you go to run the schedule, think carefully about the height of text that you nominate. make sure that your drawing colour, your drawing line type, your drawing line scale and so on are appropriate and generate your schedule. But be aware that you can edit whatever you like inside the schedule and take note of the advantage of the Match Properties tool. While I've got this drawing up, just to show you the difficulty that you can get into when you run with very thick lines, if I tick line weight on now, you can see the enormous problem where the designer here has been working and drawing with a 1.2mm with a line and other entities that are going to be drawn with a 1.2mm pen. Not a problem if you turn line weight off, but if you plot line weights, it can certainly be a problem.